isolate these particular colors within your picture. Take a look at the list here. And after isolating those particular colors, then you can adjust the hue, saturation, or luminance of those colors, independent of the rest of the colors in your picture. If you're not familiar with the terms of hue, saturation, and luminance, let's take a look. Hue means basic color. Is it blue, green, orange, yellow? Saturation means how colorful. Is it vivid red or is it more mellow red? Luminance is how bright or dark it is. And so we can adjust those things. Let's take a look at how we might be able to use that. I want to change the basic color of this clown's nose. So I see the nose is red, so I go to the red slider. Hue means basic color, and that means I can change it. If I click here, I can move, and you see the basic color of the red stuff in this picture shifting around. If I've experimented and I don't like what I have, remember you can double click on any slider in Lightroom to reset it to its default. And so maybe what I want to adjust is the blues, like the blue sky. Well, I can go to the blue slider and shift it over to purple or over to a more greenish color, or double click to say that's not what I wanted to do. The problem with doing it that way is you have to guess at which slider to use for various areas. And in some areas, like this area down here, this isn't really red, it's not really orange, it's not really magenta maybe, I don't know, it might be halfway in between some of those. So there's a way to get Photoshop to figure out which slider to work with, and the way you do that is you go to this little donut that's right here. If I click on that, then I can move my mouse on top of my picture, and as I go on top of my image, it will highlight the slider that it would adjust to affect that particular area. So when I move around, look at the numbers that appear to the right of the sliders and the names of the sliders. Those two areas is where you'll see it highlight things. And so if I click on the nose now, I can drag up and down to change it. But notice it's actually a little better than what I would do, because watch the sliders themselves. Do you notice that it's not just moving red, it's also moving orange to a lesser extent? Because it knew that that nose was not perfectly red. Instead, it had a little hint of orange in it. So it would move more than one slider at a time. It's more precise to do it that way. And so then I can come down here. And there it thinks that's red with a little bit of magenta, barely any. And so it's going to be a little bit more effective at isolating an area if I were to use that little donut icon. It's not going to be able to absolutely precisely isolate something because it's limited to using this series of sliders. In Photoshop, I'd be able to isolate it even more. But we're trying to stay away from Photoshop and just use Lightroom because it's usually faster and easier. So let's then switch over to saturation up here, the little tab up here, and we still have the donut active. So now I can come in here and I can take the areas that are green, and if I drag up, I can make them more colorful. Drag down, I can make them less colorful. And it's trying to isolate them from the rest of the image because I clicked on, I think that's his hat over there, the green. Maybe the sky's a little too colorful. Click on it, drag up or down. Now it can't isolate the sky from the rest of the image. It can only isolate blues from the rest of the colors. So anything else within the image that is blue is going to shift as well, because that's how these sliders work. It can be useful to click on luminance for skies and darken them, because skies often look better when they're darker. It's just like using a polarizing filter. Might look better though when it's colorful. So you can fine tune it. Then you have the choice of all on the right side, and all that does is show you all of these sliders as a series. If I collapse down my histogram, it might be easier to see it, but it'll show you all the hue sliders, then all the saturation sliders, and then all of the luminance sliders. I find that to be useful when an image has already been adjusted and I'm going back and reviewing these images and saying, what did I do in this image? What did I do in that one? Instead of having to click between the three kind of tabs of hue, saturation, and luminance, I can see them all together here to see what has been shifted and what hasn't. And if I want to reset any of them, I can just double click on any of them to do so. So you have hue, saturation, luminance,